Welcome to the Growth with AI podcast. I'm Peter Martinson, and today's episode is going to be a powerful look at creativity, branding, and the evolving role of AI in marketing. Our guest is Duane Ciacco, Strategic Director at Atomic Idea, a full-service creative agency known for turning complex brand challenges into clear, compelling ideas. With a background that blends strategic insight and creative leadership, Duane has helped countless brands connect meaningfully with their audiences while embracing emerging tools like generative AI to enhance, not replace, the creative process. Duane, it's great to have you here.
Thanks, Peter. It's good to be here. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So tell me your story. How did you start doing what you're doing now? How did you get into branding and marketing?
That's a great story. Going back, coming out of high school, didn't really know what I wanted to do, and honestly was going to pursue a path in law. Thought I'd be a corporate lawyer, and landed in college. And after the first year, realized that was not what I wanted to do. So kind of changed things up a little. Wanted to play off the creative side that I had, but also that logical thinking. Love to pitch, talk, analyze, reason. And that kind of led me down a path of marketing. So came out of school with a double major in mass communications and studio art with photography. Landed a corporate marketing job in a really big firm, a big company, and we had a lean team. So I got to do quite a bit working on really big marketing campaigns, working with a top agency here in Denver. So that got me excited and kind of launched me off, and then spent about 4.5 years, give or take, on the corporate side. And then I left and went to the agency side. So I decided to try the agency side of the marketing and thought I'd be there 4 or 5 years, then go back to corporate. And that never happened. So stayed on the agency side, helped build up 2 agencies here in the Denver area. And then in 2012, I jumped out on my own as a consultant and kind of built a practice of working in a white label or fractional way with other agencies, but also I had a lot of direct clients that I built up. And then in 2018, a very good friend of mine that I've known since college, he and I formed Atomic Idea. So I'm the strategy director, co-founder, and he's the design director. And we've spent the last 6 years, 7 years building up our client base, refining our team, and honing our processes so that we can, bring really strong brand development, strategy, and marketing execution to our clients.
Awesome. So it sounds like you came out of the 2008 crisis and started one marketing firm, and then you went into the COVID crisis right after creating another marketing firm. So sounds
Yeah,
like a
so
lot
that
of
was that
challenges.
was interesting. Yeah, 2012, things kind of went well, and it was doing great. But right, we started Atomic Idea in 2018, and then of course COVID hit roughly a year later. So that changed some things, but in some ways, Peter, really helped us because it opened up some other markets. Everyone was used to remote work. We saw, video production work went down, other things went up. But we really worked hard during COVID to refine some things and learn from it, so that our strategy was to come out of COVID kind of in a slingshot, or a rebound strategy. And we did that. So came out of there with some kind of renewed growth and focus. And then that was kind of a rebuilding year, 21. But then starting in 22, we saw a nice path of growth. So we've seen, 22, 23, and 2024, really nice growth for the agency and in finding new clients, growing the client base, and being able to land even bigger clients, right? You become more confident in your abilities and you're going after some bigger projects. So yeah, an interesting trajectory, and we're happy with where we are and glad we made it through COVID.
Yes, absolutely. There are a lot of companies that didn't. So is there a particular niche or a particular market segment that y'all specialize in?
Peter, we get asked that all the time, and a lot of the experts say you should be a niche focused agency or a specialist, and we really aren't. The experience that I bring to the table, having done this for a long time, my business partner, we have worked with everyone from nonprofit to financial industries, real estate development, you name it, right? Tech, B2C, B2B. So while we don't necessarily have a niche, or hey, we're all healthcare, let's say. But we do have some specialties where, our wealth of experience plays a part. So healthcare, nonprofit, financial industries, real estate development, we have a lot of experience in those areas. So we of course tend to go after that kind of work.
Mm.
But being that we're agnostic in, our industries, we'll take on anything really. We landed a client about 8 months ago, 9 months ago, that was pet urgent care. We have no experience in that, but they saw that we brought a lot to the table. And really, sometimes bringing all that knowledge from other industries can help, right? So you're not just looking at it, in a focused or blindfolded way. We're able to bring other experience to the table that can help. So when we think of it as the building blocks, right?
Mm.
We know branding really well. We know marketing, and we just have to apply that to these different industries, and we can do that. So the answer, long-winded, was no. We don't really have a specialty, but we definitely have some depth of experience in several industries.
Okay. So pet urgent care. I imagine that if your dog or cat gets hit on a weekend, that's something you need at the time.
Yeah, it's a brilliant business model, and they're expanding pretty quickly. And just like human urgent care filled a need, they're doing the same. So we're excited to be their agency of record and helping them across the board with several different marketing tactics.
Okay. Cool. So there were a couple of mentions on your website about AI. So there was a comment you recently mentioned at the Adobe Max conference that AI should be used responsibly as a tool, not a replacement for creative thinking or years of experience. So, given that perspective, how or are you integrating genitor, genit? I'm going to learn how to say that word, I promise.
It's not easy.
How are you going to use AI in your agency's workflow without compromising that human creative spark?
Yeah, Peter, it's the hot topic, right? And everyone's talking about it. We get asked this all the time. We just were in client meetings yesterday, and it came up from one of our clients how we're using it, what we're doing with it. We've spent a lot of time, and I'll be honest, we were late adopters, right? We were really hesitant at first to jump in, and kind of waited to feel it out and see where it was going. And we spent a lot of time talking about internally as a team, and then also talking about how it fits in with our vision, right? Our value system as an agency, and the mission that we have, and making sure that we're not allowing it, like the quote you mentioned, to replace what we do well. And that's our creative thinking and bringing the experience to the table. So, like any tool, even a construction tool, right? If you use it correctly, it can do a great job. But you never want to misuse that tool. So what we do is look at AI as a support system. We never allow it to sort of take the flagship role and allow it to do everything for us. We're mainly using it for research. It's really great to streamline that process of research. We're really working right now on building out what we're calling like our agency university. So we're building dossiers on every client. So we have a depth of knowledge that helps us be a better partner. AI is definitely helping us to do that in a quicker way. We've also used it to just streamline some of the processes, right? So it can shorten some of the process time that in some of the things we're doing. And then let's say on a more creative or comes to copywriting, in that's the case. So for instance, for myself, if I'm working on some content, I'll usually do the first draft and put everything in, and then I will run it through a couple AI tools just to see what it comes back with. And honestly, yeah, there's sometimes 20-30% of the suggestions they have, they go, hey, that's a good idea. And we take it and refine it. But like we just told this client yesterday, for some of the content we're doing for him, even though AI is used as part of the process, there is at least 3 humans that touch that content and copy to review, refine, and edit before it goes over to him. And that's how we're doing it. Looking for ways to, again, use certain tools that just automate some processes, right? That's where AI can really help. So for us, it's a little guarded still. Some agencies we talk to have jumped in full, they're in the deep end going for it. Others, if they're really small, they seem to be, using it even more extensively. But for us, we still value that creative and that strategy that we bring to the table just because of our experience. And we don't want to ever lose that.
Yeah. So I'm curious, do you think that there are risks or missed opportunities to not using AI tools right now?
Uh, I think that, it depends on what you're working on too. Every case is different. So, for instance, we're finding that there's some uses when it comes to like video production. We just did a commercial for a client, and in the typical way, we would have shot footage and edited, and it would have taken a lot more time, and it would have cost a lot more money. And so we found this opportunity to use AI to help us to build that short commercial for this client. We still did shoot some footage and some stills, but AI was able to take that and build out that commercial much quicker than we could have, and a lot more cost effectively. So, I think it's picking and choosing when it's the right fit. And, we may not always make the right call, but for us, that's working well. And I do think that if you aren't, at least exploring the uses of AI, yes, there's a risk that you're going to get left behind. Like I said, we were a little late in our adoption and realizing, wow, what this could do. And now we're trying to, stay with the pace, if you will. So I think if you totally ignore it and don't find ways to integrate it, it's going to hurt you because it does speed up some of the processes.
I have heard other guests talk about using AI video to very quickly put together just a very simple video or at least a storyboard to be able to show to clients very quickly,
Yeah.
again, at a lower cost
Yeah.
so that
It's unbelievable. Yeah, what how quickly some of this stuff can happen, or like I said, for us, research, right? Like being able to go in and do research on a client where we might have done that, more manually or Google, et cetera. But now to be able to to bring all that in and then push it through another AI tool to refine it, it really does just cut down on the time, right? Which allows us then to spend time on the things that are more important and are more human centric. So creative thinking, brainstorming, design, that, or strategy work, right? Brand strategy. So that has helped us in a lot of ways.
cool. So you also observed at the at that conference how new tools and AI are reducing previously time-intensive creative tasks from days or hours down to minutes. Can you give an example of one important task in your agency's creative process that you expect to be fully transformed by AI in the next, let's say, in the next year,
Hmm. That's
if
a
any? And there may not be one, or you may not.
Yeah, that's a tough question for a couple reasons, Peter. Just to be perfectly honest, I'm not in the weeds doing the creative, so I have a team, and Keith, my co-founder, is a design director. So that would probably be better answered by him. There's things that I know they're exploring to help them speed up the process. I know one that he just mentioned to me because we were in a meeting yesterday, comes with Photoshop in terms of really editing photos. So we have a lot of clients that, a big part of what we're doing is taking and retouching and editing a lot of photographs or combining photographs, working with the products, backgrounds, all that. And what he was talking about yesterday is that these newer tools within Photoshop and tools like Lightroom, they have AI built in. And so it does take a process that before, literally could take hours for us to manually do in Photoshop. It can take it and do that in, I mean, seconds to minutes, right? So things like lighting on a surface, or separating the front foreground from the background, masking that out. Those sort of processes that the team goes through in the past did take a lot more time. And so now that is shortening that window, helping us to be more efficient. One example, and again, that team could probably give you more in-depth analysis of that.
Yeah. So I'm curious, are there things that you have not been able to find AI tools to help with yet?
Hmm. Not really. Nothing, at least for us, that, hey, we wish that it could do this. Let's look for it. Some of it is even maybe not AI driven, but just looking at integrations, right? Using tools like Zapier and other things to integrate and again just streamline those processes. That's really important for us as we continue to streamline. And we're not a huge agency either, so it helps us to be more productive if we can look at how are we doing certain things. Like we just did, we have a client that uses a certain tool to send tasks to us. We want to make sure we weren't were missing those tasks, we were able to take and our developer was able to integrate some tools like Zapier and other things so that it's integrated when that comes through the client. We get it in that software, but we're not always in that software, right? It's not one we use. So he was able to create a link or an integration where we get it in Slack now.
Yep.
So we have a specific Slack channel that is critical. It's labeled the client and critical. It comes through, boom, the whole team gets it. So those are, simple things that we're looking at that really just, again, streamline our time so that we can focus on doing the things that really matter, right?
Sure. No, those are great tools. I've used those for because
Oh,
the number of messaging and communications apps is just overwhelming.
yeah.
And do you want to run all, 6 or 8 or 10 apps all at once on your computer? And so feeding them into one generalized, platform is helpful.
It's just that integration. I was joking with some the other day, and I see you have a little gray hair like I do. But I mean, I remember the days of carrying around a day planner, right? And you had your notes in there, and you do everything, and then you transfer those notes to another notebook.
Mhm.
The automation and the streamlining of bringing together data and calendars and tasks, it's really helped a lot.
Yes, I completely agree. Um, so in your years of experience, what do you have any fun stories? Do you have uh, anything that just is a fun story to tell the audience?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, being in marketing and being able to work in advertising is fun, right? We get to do a lot of cool stuff. We've gotten to work with a lot of great clients over the years. And I look at, some of the highlights, if you will, some just wins or cool experiences because of the industry I'm in. Years ago, I was doing some work and we were looking at doing a educational video series for high school students on driving safe, right? And we had the opportunity, they reached out. We had a client, and then we had a partner that was reaching out that was doing a lot of the education. And we get this call, and he basically said, "Hey, Duane, I think it would be really important to bring you out to Phoenix, and we're going to put you and the producer and this other guy through performance driving school." Right. I'm a guy, right? Like I'm thinking this is the coolest thing ever. So they literally flew us to Phoenix and they had basically set up a private full day with a ex race car driver, and we it was at the Bondurant school, I think, and we had a full day of performance driving school. Just unbelievable experience, right? Like it was so cool. But honestly, it did make a difference too. So when we started to talk about the program and what we would build, to be able to have that firsthand experience enabled me to be better at, how do we do this, right? How do we tackle this? What makes sense?
Right.
So those are, just one thing or just, different things over the years, shooting commercials, meeting different people. But at the end of the day, for me, one of the things that just makes me smile is when I see the client excited, right? So when we've delivered a product, it could be anything from collateral to a trade show booth to a really cool video, and you see the client excited about it, you see them get some accolades from their boss, right? And they're proud of it. That's when you get really excited, right? You know you've connected the dots and our name is Atomic Ideas, so that idea has exploded, right? It's become powerful. That's exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. The driving class does sound like a lot of fun.
That was pretty cool. I can't deny that, Peter. It's on the highlight reel for me.
Something that something AI would not be able to help you with, and something as somebody who drives a manual transmission car, I'm I have to say I'm not really crazy about the idea of all these robo taxis driving around, and
Yeah.
but it's hard to stop the future.
Well, and that's, you bring up a great point, Peter, that AI couldn't do that. And that's where I think, at the end of the day, we have to remember that AI is just pulling from data that it can pull from, right? And it is learning. You can feed it and give it information so that it learns you and has a better style. Like, so we feed it stuff so it understands the atomic idea approach and our culture. But at the end of the day, right, AI can't feel that experience, right? They're not there. Or even, when we're meeting with certain clients and we're learning their brand, hearing those little things, right? And going beyond what's just written or available on the internet.
Mhm.
That's different, and the relationships that we have with our clients. AI can't replace that, right? Being a good partner for them. So that, again, it just goes back to using that tool in a way that supports and enhances what we're doing and how we're doing it.
Yeah. Well, sounds like y'all are finding a good balance there. So good
We're
for you.
trying.
Um, so as we start to wrap things up here, is there anything that you want people who might hire you to know about you or your agency?
Yeah. So, I tell this story that when Keith and I decided to start Atomic Idea, we truly wanted to build a better mousetrap. And I know a lot of people say that, well, we want to do it better. But we took and looked at our collective experience, both on the corporate side, agency side, managing and working with agencies, and said, what is it that frustrates us and other clients about working with an agency? What are the things that, agencies typically don't do well? Where are the bumps, and how can we change that and build a better mousetrap? So we really did set out to do that, and we're pretty proud of the fact that we've been able to do it and it's worked. So we have compressed a lot of the layers. We don't have a lot of fluff. We have a slide that we put in our deck, and it's like there's no fluff, there's no egos. We want to be a partner, not a vendor. I always say to my team, if the client starts looking at us as a vendor, we're not doing our job, right? We want to be a partner. We've also been able to streamline our rates and the way we bill. And so we are extremely competitive in the market. Our clients tell us that we save them, 30, 40% compared to past work that they've done. And at the end of the day, you always are working with Keith and I. So, it's not a come in, you get the big wigs pitching you, and then junior team handles you. We have a team that is, from some that are more junior in their career to some of us that have been around. But Keith and I literally touch every client. Doesn't matter if it's the smallest or the largest, you're going to see us, hear from us, and we're going to touch it. So that to us is really valuable to the client. And we had a client tell us recently, it's a client that's actually brought us into 3 companies. So
Hmm.
it shows the loyalty that she has to us as she's moved along. And I appreciated what she said because we try to do this. Relationships are really big for us. We talk about that, our relationships internally with our team and our relationships with our client. But at lunch, she brought up and just mentioned that what she really appreciates about us is the relationship we have. And the word she used was genuine. She said it's genuine. So that made us feel good, right? That she looks at us as truly a good partner and that the relationship is genuine. So we can come in and we also, because we don't have egos, we get it. You may have other agencies. We can work with those agencies. You may have in house resources or talent. We don't want to take that away. If you can do it in house, fine. You don't need to pay us to do it. But we can look at what you need and supplement that team, whether it's a project or it's an ongoing retainer relationship where we're becoming, your agency partner, your marketing department that's outsourced, whatever that may be. So at the end of the day, we just like doing good work with good people. That's what it comes down to.
Fantastic. Well, and sounds like y'all are successful in doing that, and I hope that 2025 and 2026 continue to be great years for you.
Thank you, Peter. Appreciate that.
But all right, well, take care, and maybe we'll talk to you again someday.
Thanks again for having me, Peter. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome.